Thanks for watching and welcome to Past Physiology Review of Topic 1, the body tissues and extracellular matrix. What you see on your right is the study guide that I have created that breaks down in a simple and visual and efficient format everything that is in your notes, or the highlights of what's in your notes, but it's pretty well covered. You will need to understand some of these symbols and colors and abbreviations and whatnot. We'll get there. On the left is a PDF of your textbook, Junqueira's Basic Histology. It is an excellent resource. I highly recommend that you get it in the PDF format online for free by searching for it, or from somebody else, or go and buy the paperback book. You can get the older editions very cheap on Amazon. It's super nice to have. Make sure you get it, okay? You don't need to buy the newer edition necessarily because it's the same stuff. Page numbers might differ a little bit, but all you have to do is go to the table of contents and look at words instead of numbers, and you'll figure it out. Okay, so what we've got in front of us is epithelial tissue in the PDF version of the textbook, and on the right are the 4 types of connective tissues, just a few highlights about them, but I want to bring your attention to the white box, the basement membrane. This is a somewhat difficult concept to grasp with all these different names and different lamina, okay, lamina lucida, lamina densa, reticular lamina. This can get a little bit hairy, so I put this in this box. I basically made this entire box to help us understand the basement membrane and its place within the tissue types. So, quite simply, we have 4 basic tissue types: epithelium, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. Muscular tissue and nervous tissue are not covered in hardly any detail in this outline. It's not going to be really tested. Muscular tissue will be tested in your next exam and second exam. Nervous tissue, you're going to have an entire class, Neurophysiology 2, all about nervous tissue and nerve conduction, so you don't really need to know much about that. Okay, the shape of the cell will probably get you by for now. Muscular cells are long contractile cells. Nervous, nerve cells are mostly long as well too, very long, highly specialized, but that's all you need to know for right now. Okay, but epithelium covers free surfaces, provides protection, absorption, and secretion. If you put these words backwards, okay, secretion, absorption, and protection, that comes out with the word sap, okay? If that helps you, sap oozing out of a tree, okay, that's something, but really it's quite simple. We don't need to spend too much time on this. So your epithelium is like skin. It protects everything underneath, but also you can secrete outwardly through it, and you can absorb inwardly across it as well. There's various different membranes in the body formed by epithelial tissue. The kidneys would be a great example. All the filtering type of organs in your body are more examples. So they're not solid walls. They don't just absolutely protect and keep things separate from the inside and outside worlds. They also let things across in a controlled manner, if the body's functioning right in a controlled manner. The cells are tightly packed together. I've put a bunch of little copyright symbols to kind of show, like, this is my little ghetto Microsoft Word version of a cell picture, right? So they're jammed together, and if we take it across here to the notes column, they are basically non-vascular, so they don't have blood vessels supplying the tissue. They're going to have the process of diffusion, okay, supplying nutrient exchange, so nutrition for the cell and waste excretion away from the cell. This is important to note. It's non-vascular, and thus I've created this entire row for epithelium blue, okay, as in non-vascular, as in what if you cut the circulation off to your arm by wrapping a band around it, right? It's going to turn blue, something like that, okay? So blue is non-vascular. Go down to connective tissue. Connective tissue is highly vascular, lots of blood, so I put connective tissue in red, okay, to give you some color. If you think in color, these colors may help you. If you don't think in color, we've got other tools, so don't sweat it, okay? Now in the middle of epithelium and connective tissue, we've got this basement membrane thing. And this box is kind of, at least these three rows are arranged in superficial to deep order. Okay, that's how everything will be listed in my study guides. If there is a superficial to deep order of tissues and layers of things, I'll always put it in superficial, top down to deep order, okay? So epithelium will lie above connective tissue in the body. So just think skin overlying muscle for a real easy example, but obviously these are smaller parts, but that's, that can kind of get you there. And when I say muscle, I really should say skin overlies muscle. Okay, muscle's down here, but there's connective tissue between the muscle and epithelium, the fascia, which we will get into, which the entire topic 2 is about fascia. Okay, so epithelium overlies fascia, connective tissue, okay, which overlies muscle. So this connective tissue in the body is going to connect things, okay, so binding structures. It also protects and provides a structure, a support. It can also kind of wall off different compartments in the body, which we'll get to more in topic 2, creating compartments in the body to basically inhibit the spread of cancers and bacterial infections and things like that. It also channels interstitial fluid flow, but all that is basically topic 2 content, so we'll just kind of hold off. But these are just making a structure, a framework for basically everything between muscle and skin in your body, okay? There are cells that are loosely arranged in connective tissue, so they're spaced out apart, and they have a lot of extracellular matrix, which we're going to dig into in detail. So if we go back up quick to epithelium, there is very little extracellular matrix to speak of. It's just a bunch of cells jammed together. But in connective tissue, you've got all these cells spread out, and what is between the cells, since they are so spread out, what is between the cells is the extracellular, outside the cell matrix. Okay, so it's very important that you grasp from the very beginning what extracellular matrix actually is. It is the stuff around cells. It is extracellular. It's the extra stuff around cells. It's the matrix around the cells. Okay, hammer that in if you don't already know it. Okay, it's very important that you at least understand what it is. So in connective tissue, you have 3 basic things: cells, extracellular matrix, which is a lot of things basically that makes it up. And then the third component of connective tissue is fluid, free fluid, interstitial fluid, extracellular, outside the cell fluid. Okay, tissue fluid. You should not have very much tissue fluid in the body, just a little bit. If you have a lot, then that can be indicative of any variety of pathologies, and we call it edema. So connective tissue, highly vascular, and we're going to get real deep, or at least there's way more to it than this class even covers, but we're going to get into it about all these different components of the different types of fibers and what makes up ground substance. And basically, you're going to want to know where you're going to find certain types of fibers in the body and what those certain types of fibers do, what are their basic characteristics, big, small, strong, okay, whatever, and what these fibers are made of, okay, so what type of collagen they're made of. And then ground substance, you need to get familiar with these words, glycosaminoglycans, proteoglycans, glycoproteins. Now that sounds, maybe the first time you hear it, okay, it probably sounds like a foreign language, but we're going to break it down and make it easy to get a grip on those different terms, what they are, what they're made of. So with ground substance, there are basically those 3 things, okay, GAGs, proteoglycans, and glycoproteins. You're going to want to know their basic function and where their basic function, what makes them, which will be sugar and protein, okay, basically, but in different combinations of amounts, okay, and also where you're going to find, these different types of ground substance in the body, okay. So that's connective tissue. Now let's go back to the middle. Basement membrane is what this table is here for. So what it does is it anchors the epithelium to the connective tissue. Okay? It is made of two major parts, a basal lamina and a reticular lamina. Notice that basal lamina is in blue. Reticular lamina is in red. This is because the basal lamina is comprised of epithelial tissue. It is made by the epithelium. It is part of the epithelium. And the reticular lamina is part of the connective tissue. It's made by connective tissue. It's attached to connective tissue. It technically is, okay? It's connective tissue. So that's important to know. That's what the colors are there for. Now, if you come back up to the basal lamina, part of the epithelium in blue, the blue basal lamina, blue is your epithelium. The basal lamina has two parts, lamina lucida and lamina densa. The lamina lucida is closer to the surface of the skin. It's closer to the outside world. It's more superficial, and even in a histological image, it will appear lighter, okay, which we'll look at a little bit later. It's lighter, it's closer to the light of the outside world, it's more superficial, it's above the lamina densa. The lamina densa is deeper. Okay? So if you need to know the order of these two things, superficial to deep, lucid, okay, this refers to light, right? So lamina lucida, lighter, closer to the light in the outside world, and lamina densa is deeper, darker, closer to the darker of the inside world in your body speaking, okay? Just to help you separate these two things. Now, if you take across lamina densa over here to the next column, you know, I have a B here, right? B, A, lamina lucida, B, lamina densa, B, it is formed of, the lamina densa is formed of network type 4 collagen. Now, this is a preview. You've already heard this in class, I hope. We're going to be getting into these different numbers of collagen in a second here. But right off the bat, because this is where this detail goes in this table, the lamina densa is formed by network type 4 collagen. Okay, lamina densa, A, B, C, D. The 1, 2, 3, 4th letter of the alphabet, A, B, C, D. Densa, type 4. 4th letter of the alphabet is D. Type 4 collagen. 4th letter of the alphabet is D. 4D. Okay? So this is the way that we're going to be approaching a lot of these details that otherwise just don't really make a whole lot of sense unless you just straight up memorize it. So to memorize these numbers and these things and these words, okay, we're going to be just offering you different ways to make connections, okay, to get access in your brain to this information. We're going to make it quite simple, and I encourage you to use what I talk about, okay, and what we're going to talk about in our past sessions. Use what I have, right, or better yet, come up with your own. And if you come up with your own, please share it, because why not? The best way, you guys, the best way to come up with these memory tools is to make it up by yourself, even if it doesn't make any sense to anybody else. We want to make connections between facts that you have to learn, okay, make connections between facts that you have to learn and anything else, okay? This is nice because you've got two pieces of information that connect to each other to give you potentially answers on two different questions about one or the other, lamina densa or this concept of type 4 collagen. It also helps you rule out wrong answers, right, in a multiple choice format. But there's also going to be times when we just make random connections to other things in the world and silly things or gross things or risque concepts, okay? Anything that evokes a strong emotion or image in your mind is going to be incredibly helpful to help you remember things in your courses, okay? So I'm spending time on this with you because I want you to think about the method behind the madness here, okay? Think about why I'm offering these different memory tools, okay, and word associations and things. Because if you can nail this down and be able to do this by yourself in first trimester, is going to make your work here at Palmer much easier. Okay, so I encourage you to kind of use this strategy in any class that you struggle with as you're studying. It's much more efficient to slow down a little bit and think through studying, and study smart instead of just studying hard. Okay, because if you can make this connection in your mind, D, lamina densa, fourth letter of the alphabet, type 4 collagen, you're really going to save time. You're not going to have to study this and memorize it over and over again and flip a flashcard over and over again if you've got a way to get there besides just rote memorization out of the blue. Okay? Okay, that's an important point. Now we're going to get back into straight physiology stuff here. Okay, so the next thing here, this is the color purple. There's a plus sign between the basal lamina in total and the reticular lamina, because what the color, right? If you blend blue and red, you're probably going to get purple. So this little plus sign is saying that, go over here, link anchor type 7 collagen, right, is what is going to link or anchor the basal lamina. It's what it's going to link or anchor it down to the reticular lamina below. So what connects? What is the chain link? What is the one little itsy bitsy piece thing that connects epithelium to connective tissue? Well, one might say the basement membrane connects epithelium to connective tissue. That's absolutely true. But if you want to take it down to the more minute scale, and you have link anchor type 7 collagen as an answer choice, that's probably the most specific nitty-gritty answer. Okay, it is what is going to connect the basal lamina of the epithelium to the reticular lamina of connective tissue. All right, so type 7 link anchor. All right, and also a capital L. All right, a capital L. I'm kind of drawing it with my mouse here. A capital L, right? If you invert that, becomes a 7. All right, come down here. Look at what I've got here. L7. All right, and if you there's some old movie. I don't remember if it was the Weenies or some movie or something back in the day. L7 Weenie or L7 Loser. All right, or the Goonies. Okay, you figure it out. It's some old movie. I remember this being in L7. All right, L7 linking, anchoring. The shape of the L inverted becomes a 7. Linking is type 7 collagen. All right, another little random memory tool there for you. Okay, so let's go look at some pictures of what we've talked about. This is your Junkiera text, and this is an image that is going to be shown in your class on the left of epithelia and adjacent connective tissue. So you've got superficial overlying epithelial tissue. Notice the cells jammed together here. Let's zoom in a little bit. These cells are jammed together real tight. That looks like epithelial tissue, and it is. And then below it is this red line. The red line is our basement membrane, okay? But that's a real simple illustration of basement membrane. And then what this is down here is connective tissue with fibers and various parts of the ground substance in it, and then we've got our cells in here too. Okay, super simple, but this red line symbolizes the basement membrane. And I've got another picture. If we just open up a browser here, this is an illustration. I kind of like this one better though. Let's check this out. So what we've got here is a picture zoomed out a little bit, squished together epithelium with their cells, and then it shows it lying over this thing here. This is our basement membrane. And then below it, should be connective tissue. Pretend that these cells are spaced out a little bit more and there's some goo between it. Not sure why they chose to illustrate it looking more like cells, but these we could say are cells with nuclei, and then everything else is, I guess, kind of compartmentalized globs of ground substance. But this is epithelium, this is basement membrane, this is connective tissue. Now zoomed in on it, this is the bottom of the epithelial cells. This hemidesmosome is something that just links the two together. That word doesn't need to be covered right now. But then this shows us our layers, okay? We've got our basal lamina, composed of the superficial lamina lucida. Lucida, light, closer to the light of the outside world, it's more superficial. It also stains lighter in a histological specimen, which this is kind of a drawing of histological specimen. And then below it is a deeper, denser, darker, deeper, down more, okay, downward, lamina densa, two parts of the basal lamina, and then below it These little fibers right here we could say are L7, linking, anchoring type collagen, linking the basal lamina of the epithelium to the reticular lamina of the connective tissue below. All right, this whole thing is the basement membrane. This is the basement membrane on the left, epithelium above to connective tissue below. The basement membrane is formed of the basal lamina of epithelium and the reticular lamina of connective tissue. The basal lamina has two layers, the lamina lucida and lamina densa. I've covered this in detail because doing this with me right here now means that you won't have to struggle with it later. Next, we'll get into the different types of fibers and the different types of body parts, okay, and functions that they're going to be associated with.
I don't think he's gonna stop.